you've answered this question before. There's a great clip about it, Live with Matt Rad Clips channel on YouTube. I'm just trying to promote it so people search there because it's great.
Yeah,
also, as a reminder, as always, we've got livewithmattrad.com. If you click on episodes, all of the show notes for all 72, this will be the 73rd conversation, they're all searchable. So people explore that, give us feedback. Bradley, Slow Hand Sound on here, takes great notes every week, and they have links in them. So it's all searchable now. So please go check that out. Check out the website. You've talked about this before. John asked, what are the first things you approach in a mix? Has that changed at all for you? I know you kind of bring up faders, and if I remember correctly, it's really, you kind of go with the low end and the vocal as the primary focus first. Is there anything that's changed for you?
But that's not anything that is that's personal to me. My favorite bits of songs are the vocal and the low end, right? So that's personal to me. We've answered this, I guess, but has it changed? No, it changes every day, you know? Yeah. The other day there was a Kimber record that the verb was so special on the way that it was sent to me. And I went in and treated the reverb first. I was like, how much more can I get out of this space on the vocal? You know, that was the first thing I touched. So I don't know, something that jumps out and calls me to work on. And it's not, you know, that's an example of how to bring more life to something that's there, not how to fix something, right? The more chance I have to bring life and color to a mix is the better way to start a mix for me than, this is just a disaster in the upper mids. And I just gotta, okay, well, this is going to be a struggle now because I have to minimize this so it can translate and sound good and musical and warm and compelling, but also like maintain that energy so it sounds close enough to the rough. It's like that's a different way to go in, but I try to approach with broad strokes, like Joe is saying right here. You know, make these moves and nothing too specific.
Let's say one of the things I'd say is it's important for people to recognize that when you are bringing up a mix, you have your assistant setting it up such that you are hearing essentially a multi-track version of the rough. So I think that's probably the first thing for a lot of people to do when you are starting a mix. Get it so it sounds pretty close to the rough, so that you have the starting point is where everybody else was hearing it and liking the song. And then the song will tell you, okay, I really need to go straight after this vocal and work on it, or what's going on with the reverb and the space. Let me listen to that first, or this is great, but I know I got to get the low end right. So let me go low end and vocal and start building from there. I think it depends very much, at least when I've had straight mix jobs, most of my mixing is mixing my own stuff. But when I've had mix jobs, it's exactly what you're talking about, which is get it up to where it sounds like what everybody else has been listening to, and then let the song tell you what it makes sense to work on.
Yeah, so when I'm listening back and forth on a rough to where my mix either starts with Josh gets at the start or wherever I get at the start, is the length and the space between notes, parts, the separation, what's causing the glue in someone's rough mix. I'm listening to more of an approach and a style and stylistic choices that were made before me. So what part I work on first is not really the best way to answer this question. It's
figuring out what they're
approach.
After.
Yeah,
what are they trying to accomplish, and how can you approach it your way from their perspective?
Exactly. And that's my job. My job is to enhance what has already been sent to me. So when I think about approach, I would be lying if I didn't say I just jump in right away, because something usually catches me to work on, whether positive or negative. But you should sit and listen a couple of times through the record. Earlier in my career, I did that. I listened without touching. Like, even with Tony, we would sit on the couch and he would do something. Maybe he's snacking on a banana or something, and we'd talk about the record, and we'd sit on the couch together and press play. Like, what is this record? Like, I remember when the Gaga songs came in. I don't even think we listened until the session was prepped. That's another thing for me. I tend to not want to listen to the song until it's prepped. So if I get a spark of inspiration on what to do, I can just jump on it right away. Every once in a while, if I'm really excited, I'll ask the producer if they're homies, like, yo, send me a rough. Like, let me bump this in the car before. But I noticed myself being like, fuck, I can't wait to get home and touch that, So when it comes to the approach, listen, try to understand it. And if you're not sure what the approach is, get on the phone with the producer or the artist, right? Like, that's another whole thing. How do we communicate? How do we talk to the people that created what's, coming our way now? And if you can't guess, find out what it is, because that's the best chance you're going to have of completing the task the way that they want you to.
I like. There's two things I want to touch on what you said. One, it sounds like the first thing you approach in a mix, and the first thing we should all do is, we've talked about this before, when, especially as a mix engineer, there's been so many people and so much process and so much emotion and so much collaboration and probably disagreement and compromise and whatever to get to the point where you're listening to it. The thing you want to do, the first thing you want to do as a mixer is figure out how to be a part of the process that they've already been through. Because you don't want to just...
Where do I fit?
Where do you fit? What are they trying to do? How can you help that process? Again, collaboration is key, as we're talking about in the chat. Putting yourself in the position where you, as quickly as possible, get a sense of what they're trying to do. That's what really professional people do, is they know how to jump in and go, okay, I see what you guys are doing. Let me help. And the other thing, what was the other thing I was just going to say? I don't remember the other thing.
It happens.
Well, I've forgotten.
I mean, 9 times out of 10, 9.5 times out of 10, I understand the reference point. And I truly believe that's why I get hired. I get hired to understand where someone was trying to go with a thing. And if I take it there, then that person comes back and gives me more things to take it there. So when you think about professionalism, that's what gets you rehired, keeps you in the game, keeps you excited about what you're working on, because then you're working on more things that you're good at. You know, the best I feel after a mix is when I've mixed something that I'm like, oh yeah, I was the right person for this gig. Every now and then I get a song, you know, I think we talked about this once, but like I'll say yes to a whole album sometimes. And like 6 of the songs, I probably shouldn't be the one mixing, but since we've already done a deal, like I'm still going to do a great job on it because I know what to do. But maybe there's someone better for this. You know, I had a concept early on about having a team of 3 or 4 mixers where there's so much work coming in, like we're splitting albums and like, oh, well, so-and-so's better at this genre, so this song leans a bit more that way, so we should have that person do it. But that gets kind of sketchy with like, well, they're hiring me, so I'm now divvying this up. Like, I don't know where I fall on the line of that, morally speaking, so I'm still open to that concept of having a mixed team, but I haven't really pulled the trigger on that yet. But I understand the reference points. That's why I'm where I am in my career. I know many genres of music. I understand tips and tricks on how to get there, the things that we don't like to talk about on these shows and conversations and stuff. Like, I'm not going to give tips and tricks out all the time, but I know them. If someone, you know, I have producer friends that say, yo, like that thing that happened on that record, like, what do you think that is? And I usually know what it takes to get that, or the name of the thing that was used for that, right? That's studying. That's learning. That's like, I was listening to a podcast today about, it's experience. And it's like when you really start to understand something when you have to teach it, right? Yeah. So I could teach mixing, you know, if I really had to. Do I want to like sit there and teach why I do everything? That sounds counterproductive to the actual way to learn and what the important things are. Like when we talk about I want a mentor and stuff, like I'm not going to sit and tell you why I did a thing the whole time, but I could reverse engineer every move that I make and tell you why I did it if you were to stop me in the move. That sounds counterproductive again, but I could do it. So I understand mixing at a really high level. I understand audio. Like certain people understand, you know, like neuroscience or the brain at a really high level. My version of that is understanding what it takes to mix a record. And that's what I'm listening for, is where I slot in with that understanding of multiple genres, multiple decades, and learnings and experience.
Yeah, and as we always
study all of that.
A big part of that is just focused reps, being excited and just doing it a lot. There's no real substitute for doing something over and over and over. Thanks for watching. Just a reminder, all of this content is free. There's no secret knowledge here. We don't have sponsors. We don't run ads. We don't have a Patreon. All that we ask in return is that you share it with somebody. Thanks.